The Look East policy, initiated in 1992, the Look West policy with the Gulf, initiated in the mid-2000s, all been partly a response to China growing power and influence in the region. Then starting in 2014, India accelerated its plan to build stronger ties with its partner in the region, whether in the Persian Gulf, in Southeast Asia, or in Africa, very often through cooperation with Japan. These multiple engagement evidence the level of concern in India regarding China political and economic initiative with its neighboring countries, and highlighted the reality of the rivalry with China. Now, there was, of course, the other, if not preeminent actor, the United States. I mean, it is quite clear today that in this context, the role of the US is unlikely to fade away. True, it is increasingly being questioned, but US military capability are still by far the most important one in the region, even if a general sense of strategic fatigue and the growing political reluctance in Washington to conduct intervention abroad eventually impact the local perception on the willingness and the ability of the US to shape the dynamics in the IOR. But, and that's a big but, if the Indo-Pacific strategy of the US government reflects a growing belief in Washington that the challenges in both the Pacific and Indian Ocean are connected, in practice, the Indian Ocean appears much less important in the Indo-Pacific equation than the Pacific. And in this context, the US remains the indispensable actor, of course, but local actors simultaneously seek closer ties with other actors and seeks to edge with China and look for other more regional partnership, if not alliances. So we have an interesting process of multipolarization in the Indian Ocean. I don't even know if the term multipolarization exists, but the fact is, this is the best description that I could find of what we see right now. We have a first layer of regional politics, namely the strategic triangle comprising China, India, and the US, but also a new layer which has only added complexity to the political landscape. As mentioned, the fragmentation of the Indian Ocean has enabled local players to cultivate their own ambition. Through the same, they can develop their military capabilities and initiate new partnerships. Now, let me give you very quickly a few examples. The rise of Gulf monarchies in regional affairs in the Horn of Africa or South Asia highlight precisely this multiplication of local players in the strategic affairs of the Indian Ocean. The countries of the Gulf Cooperation Council now nurture desire of some strategic autonomy, and I insist on the some strategic autonomy rather than the term itself. And by the way, strategic autonomy has never meant strategic autarky, so there is room for interpretation here. Likewise, ASEAN member states, at least those that are littoral states of the Indian Ocean, are also increasingly active. Traditional actors of the IOR like Indonesia, Malaysia, are indeed developing new ambition. Now, let's not exaggerate the scope of those ambitions. They do exist, they are limited by resources. They nevertheless count somehow in the dynamic of the region. Additionally, if the littoral states of the Indian Ocean are playing a more active role, external middle powers are also pursuing their own agenda in the area. I mean, we can speak of the Europeans. Not all of them are littoral states of the Indian Ocean, and they have been increasingly active. I mean, I'm referring to operations such as Atalanta, the effort made in specific fields such as MDA with Crimeo, which has led to the creation of the Seraphim in Madagascar and the Croc in the Seychelles, and so on and so forth. So these are real efforts that have been propped up by the European Union with the support of European actors. Now, the problem in this whole operation is that the security architecture of the Indian Ocean remains at best underdeveloped. The Indian Ocean Rim Association, the IORA, and its own and more special ways. The Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, the IONS, are merely talk shops. I mean, this is a euphemism to say that their achievement have been so far less than impressive. What does it mean for a country like France? It means that there is, at the same time, a need to continue to, to maintain its naval presence in the Indian Ocean. And it has done so through its pre-deployed force in La Réunion, which helped it monitor the Channel of Mozambique, for example, but also continue to deploy forces directly from the metropolitan France through, for example, the Jardin Group, who comes in the Indian Ocean annually, and there is not a single exception. And as we speak, the Charles de Gaulle craft carrier is actually entering the Indian Ocean. So there is a reality of the French naval presence in the area. There is a need to maintain military forces, and this need is acknowledged. But there is also an understanding that this is not enough, and that this has to be done in cooperation with little state of the region in the region. This has been the case in particular with India since the early 2000s. Varuna is the typical exercise that we practice with India every 2 years. And this is an indication, and this is something which is growing qualitatively as well as quantitatively. So, this is typically the kind of relationship that France wants to continue developing. But it also exercises with other countries. And there is an attempt to start new relations with other countries. There is this emerging military relation with Indonesia. This is an example of that. There is also all the efforts done very discreetly by France in the southwest of the Indian Ocean through its regular presence there, which it intends to maintain, and so on and so forth. Now, there is also an understanding that unless there is a greater involvement, both operationally and politically, these efforts are likely to remain largely insufficient. So France also wants to mesh the Indian Ocean region much more than it had done by the past. There is a willingness to create that sort of web of webs that former Foreign Minister Shamshan was talking about when he referred to the Look-East policy of India in the region. That's a French and much more modest version of it, but there is the idea is more or less the same. And he's doing that through two very different line of action. There is the creation of the support to capacity building through, for example, the creation of this new maritime teaching and research center in Sri Lanka that was inaugurated last month, and which is expected over time to develop relation with similar things being done in La Réunion, for example. All that is open to regional cooperation and so on. This is what we do. There is a second dimension of it, which is France has joined the IORA in 2020, if I'm correct, December 2020, yes, exactly 4 years ago. And there is a willingness to help develop maritime affairs within IORA. So when France arrived, the first thing it did was to develop a project on, IUU fishing. It is about to start in January this year, a new set of operation on HADR. HADR, by and large, is about interoperability when we speak of the maritime domain, and this is exactly what France is about to do. There is a second aspect of it, which is similar action conducting within IONS. So we have the civilian dimension of it, we have the much more military dimension of it, and remember that the French chairmanship of the IONS was entirely dedicated to HADR. So these are two directions. They are definitely not enough. They are definitely not the whole thing. They indicate a policy, some sort of a systematic approach. Military, non-traditional approach, cooperation with states, and capacity building. These are the pillars of French action. I think this is what we believe is perhaps a step in the right direction, but the step in the right direction that will be only fulfilled if others participate as well. And I'll stop on that.
Okay. So thank you. I think that was really, really nice. You not only touched upon some big strategic ideas, turning our direction or our gaze to strategic ideas or the strategic landscape which is emerging, but also to some of, I would say, specific tactical steps by really taking the example of France. And I think, a couple of very interesting issues. And before moving on to the next speaker, I'll just highlight them. You talked about China being a game changer. Well, I mean, if you really look at how China really operates in Southeast Asia, I mean, this article by David Kang really brings me to this idea that he talked about, that in Southeast Asia it was primarily hierarchy and not anarchy, which always was prevalent. And therefore, China, yes, while was present in Southeast Asia, I think what we really need to watch is the specificities of the assertiveness in China's rise. I think that is very interesting in terms of how the Chinese strategy is rightly emerging, as you said, within the webs of webs. And this really brings us to the blurring of the low politics, the divide between the low politics and the high politics. That itself, I think, is a very important gray area that you talked about by really taking the example of IUU fishing, because again what it really talks about is the complexity of solutions that we really need, because there is a complexity of problems there will we need complex solutions in terms of responding. And there is where I guess again this contradiction that you talked about of multipolarity comes out, and one has to really see the webs of the webs or a networked strategy, as it is really emerging in the Indian Ocean region. And the third important point, which you rightly again point out as you start, perspectives are where we stand. And I think locations of these countries become very, very important. And in that context, some of the countries in South Asia, of course, everyone is analyzing India, everyone is analyzing China, but how do countries in South Asia are really looking at this? For instance, look at Bangladesh, look at Pakistan. Are they really following something like strategic autonomy, which you said is open to interpretation? Are they sort of, really trying to also adapt to hedging, as some of the countries in Southeast Asia do? Or there is a multi-engagement kind of a policy? So I think, for strategic watchers in the Indian Ocean region, while one really needs to understand how are different powers, middle powers, great powers, rising powers really emerging and responding to some of these issues, it also one also needs to in fact understand how is it that these small states are in fact negotiating, taking a stand, and putting their positions when it really comes to the issues around the Indo-Pacific. So I think this is really an interesting canvas, a strategic canvas which is emerging, which one will have to wait and watch. And something which has always compelled me is to really look at the webs of strategies which are emerging, and who are the key nodes, who are the key connectors, and how do we really make sense of the strategic space called the Indian Ocean. So, with this, we now move on to the next speaker. Is Dr. Sitaram Mishra present? Is he there? Or else we'll move on to the third speaker, which is Dr. Morio Bonavita. Dr. Morio Bonavita is a lecturer in the King's College London. I did see him when we started this session. So may I now invite him? And if Dr. Bonavita, you can also perhaps share the title of your presentation, which will be very, very helpful. Over to you, and you have 15 to 20 minutes. Over to you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Actually, we are having some technical problems, so I think we need to shift to another room. Can we
Okay.
do that really quick? I
How do
really
we do that?
apologize. Yeah,
How
I've
do we do
already
that?
shared the link in the chat box.
All right. So fine. I mean, I think the timing is perfect. We all can do that. Where is the chat box? Uh, Dr. Frederick, are you here?
Yes, I am.
But I think, are we in the right room?
I don't
I
know.
didn't really get, I really didn't get that chat message. By the time, I guess I was really trying to figure it out because there's this new system which I'm using. Yes, I mean, I
I
think it
think
was
we are,
gone.
but I don't know. I'm not sure.
But you, you are here. So I'll just request them to send it in the mail because that's, I think, better. I think we are in the wrong room
No. Well, let's see.
because it's just the two of us, no?
Yeah.
Okay, the chat is here. Okay, I got it. See, you go to the chat and you just click in here.
No, I did that already.
Okay, let me just try that and oh,
Dr. Bonavita has disappeared. Good afternoon, Dr. Mishra.
Hello. Yes, I think I got unmuted now. I was trying to unmute myself, but I couldn't. So therefore, I was just frantically trying to send some messages in the chat box. But well, we can continue now. And I see that another speaker, Dr. Mishra, is here. Dr. Mishra, would you like to start your presentation? Okay, are you there? Hello. Yes, Dr. Sitakant Mishra is here. He is an associate professor in Pandit Deen Dayal Energy University, India, and he would be presenting on nuclear dimensions of Indo-Pacific geopolitics. Dr. Mishra, are you there? I can see you here, but you need to at least say yes so that I am aware of your presence. Hello. Who's the coordinator here from NICE? Any coordinator from NICE? Hello. Anyone from NICE here? So we can get the conversation started. Am I audible, Dr. Garare?